challenge Wanaka well. That did not quite go to plan. In fact, it couldn't have been further from my plan if I tried, because I had to pull out and did not finish. That's not something I thought I'd be saying today.
Yeah, however, to be fair, it was mainly because Melanie completed the swim leg with a concrete block tied to her lower torso, which basically prevented her from swimming to her best.
So we had decided we were going to try putting on the carbon foot onto the walking socket and swim with that to save a transition on the swim exit. I had not had the chance to try it in a lake because the Ruby was cancelled a few weeks ago, so this was the first time in the water with this. When I first started the swim, I knew immediately that something was terribly wrong. I felt like my arms were taking me nowhere, and the entire swim pack were miles ahead of me before I even got 500 meters. And I have never been in that position before in my life, because the swim is usually my strong thing. So what do? The problem was that the foot attached rather than a fin meant I had no kickability, and I underestimated what propulsion that little bit of leg that I've got left actually gives me. And it also meant that it was like a brake completely, and because it was there, put my balance all off, balance and flotation. So when I tried to roll over onto my back to do backstroke or keep kicking, I couldn't, because the foot was putting everything out of kilter. So the boats, somebody on a paddleboard, somebody in a kayak, were looking after me being the last swimmer. And I knew when I got to the first buoy, because of how far ahead the swimmers were in front of me, that I was in big trouble, and there was a large possibility that I might not meet the swim cutoff, and I've never been in that position either. So I asked the person on the paddleboard, would I be able to continue? And she said yes. So I carried on for the first lap, and the finishers were coming past me before I got to the end of the first lap. I turned the buoy to start the second lap, and I asked her again, was I going to be allowed to finish? And she said she'd double checked, and that yes, they were going to let me finish the swim. So then I had a little team of people, a bit disconcerting when they take the buoys away right after you. So I'd gone around the first buoy, and it was being towed away in a boat whilst I was heading to the second buoy. The woman on the paddleboard offered me some nutrition and some water. The kayaker and a jet ski joined in with the cheers and encouragement.
By the time we reached the last 200 metres, one of the guys on the jet ski had come in and picked me up, and I came out and was hoping to cheer Mel on. And also one of the ladies who was kayaking jumped in the water with her to encourage her. Melanie completed her 3 kilometre swim. There were people, when we did a look back and a review, there were people that were swimming the 1900 metre that didn't finish. The very fact that Melanie, with a concrete block tied to her around her waist, was able to finish 3 kilometres, it was just sensational. Absolutely amazing.
But there was no way they were I was going to not finish that swim leg. The only thing that was going to make me not finish if somebody forced me to by pulling me out, and they let me finish. Now I looked at my watch afterwards, and it was actually well over the cutoff, so they could have made me stop, but they didn't.
Well, I thought the cutoff was 3:30. Was 10:30, and we were out of there before then.
I thought the cutoff for a swim was 90 minutes. The course closed at 10:30, but the cutoff for a swim I thought was 90 minutes. But anyway, out I get, and the crew that was still on the on the beach were
Everyone
cheering.
was cheering and clapping and yahooing. She had a
And
great backing by a lot of people.
Yeah.
And the people on the boats, the kayaks,
yep,
everyone was absolutely fantastic.
there was a doctor that met me on the shore, because of course somebody in the swim that long, they need to make sure that they're okay. The swim took me 2 hours when it normally takes me 1. And the doctor came with me to transition to check me over. When she did my blood pressure was 150, and it's not ever high. That is really high. She asked me, was that normal? And I said no. They had the opportunity at that point to tell me I couldn't continue, but they said that they would let me, and told me that the bike course was a hard cut-off at 3:30, no questions asked. And then she left me to make a decision.
And that was 5 hours. You could have possibly done it in 5 hours, but Melanie was absolutely worn out, and we made the decision that it was in her best interests later on for her not to continue.
Yeah. So the toll of the 3K swim, the cost to me was, because it had taken me so long, because I had so much of an extra impairment, meant that I almost totally ran out of juice by the time I got to the end of the swim. And having completely cocked up the 5K legend swim a few years ago, I knew what was going on when I got past the last buoy and was heading to the swim finish, and the waves from the boats going past started to give me issues. I knew that meant that I was running on empty. And the last time I did this, it cost me greatly. I had to sit on the beach for a good half an hour before I could even move the last time. So I knew that things were bad. When I got to transition, she asked me how my stomach was, and it wasn't so flash. I wasn't feeling nauseous, but I did not feel like it was wise to carry on. And the call to cut the race there was the hardest decision I've ever made. It was harder than the day that I decided that they could amputate my leg. But big respect to the doctor and the technical officials for allowing me to make that decision, because there's only one thing that would have been worse, and that would have been to be forced to stop. So, what have I learnt? That we shouldn't use any type of prosthetic leg in the swim unless it is the fin. And I can't use the fin because apparently it is an advantage. So therefore, I am never going to try the swim with any type of prosthetic or even a socket again, which means I'm going to have to cut the leg on the wetsuit so that I can get my leg on afterwards.
I think one of the things that's really upset Melanie is she says it's beaten me again. But it hasn't beaten you, Melanie. It's just that you haven't beaten it. And next year you will beat it, and there will be a next year, because we know now, if that hadn't have happened, you would have completed the course. You would have come out in an hour in the swimming, and you would have been great on your bike. We know now, and leading up to this event next year, we've got Tauranga and other possible aqua bikes to do in the next year as well. Plus, we're going to be practicing transitions at Te Anau.
Yeah. I also discovered that the carbon ankle is actually easy to get across uneven ground on. I didn't expect that, so we know which foot for Peter to have on the shoreline afterwards. I need to do more wetsuit swimming and more transition out of the water practice, so that we can slick that up, and so we know how to do it properly.
But we have transitioned from I believe, from a point where Melanie said, I'm not doing this again, to, and if I am, it's not going to be next year, to I think we will give it a crack next year. and we will be much better prepared for it. And Melanie is not going to let this challenge beat her.
So the things I'm proud of. The things I'm proud of is that I did not let that swim beat me. I completed the swim and I didn't quit, because there was no way I was going to be stopping somewhere during the swim, because I know that I can swim 3K.
And given that other able-bodied athletes who were also doing the race couldn't even complete their 3Ks or 1.9Ks because they weren't powerful enough swimmers, that really says a lot.
Yeah, the jet ski that came back to get Peter, the guy on that jet ski said to Peter that I had awesome drive and determination. And when I saw the jet ski zipping back towards me, I knew that Peter was on the back of it before I could even see him. And I'm also really proud of myself for making the right call to pull out. I think that means that I've come a long way in making the right choices for me and my health, because there was a time that I would have boxed on regardless, and I have done this, and then learnt the hard way that as an amputee with PTSD you can't do that, and the cost is very high. So I knew that I had to stop, and I'm proud of myself for knowing that and then actually doing that.
And I'm proud of you too, love. I'm so proud of you.
So we're going to reset, replan, and then we'll be back.
Watch out, Challenge Wanaka 2025.
I've got a few thank yous to add here on the end. I want to put a big thanks out to all of the technical officials I spoke to, all of the volunteers that I spoke to. I want to thank the challenge team for being really supportive of a para athlete. I want to thank all of the boats. I want to thank Darlene on her paddleboard for jumping in and swimming with me, and her husband Chris, who was in the kayak. I spoke to them both afterwards.
They were both with her through the whole journey, encouraging her on, as were a couple of other people as well on paddleboards. I didn't get their names. There was this fantastic Māori fella, and he was just full of praise for her. They were all just amazed at how resilient Melanie is.
And I want to thank that guy whose name I didn't even catch, who tapped me on the shoulder yesterday and said, "Whoa, I follow you on YouTube." And he turned out to be a 69-year-old from Australia who has said that he's going to do this race 2 more times because he wants one go at the 70 to 74 category before he then regresses, he called it, to an aquabike. So I hope his race went well.